to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So today is going to be a bit of, how do I say, perseverance and a little bit of comedy, right? I talked about P&P, right? Patience and perseverance. This is one of those trust the process type of moves, if you're a Commanders fan. Everything has been all positive. We've put a spin on everything that we've done thus far. We've been excited about a lot of the hires that have been made by head coach Dan Quinn thus far and his staff. This one's a little questionable, and I think I'm being nice. I saw this come across my timeline, and I was like, not O-line Bobby Johnson. Not O-line Bobby Johnson. No. Not O-line Bobby Johnson from the Giants. Yeah, that O-line Bobby Johnson. Uh-oh. So then my brain automatically went to that positive thing that I do, right? That, okay, we're going to find out just what happened with O-line Bobby Johnson. And we're going to figure out if there was positive vibes going into this Giants stint that was horrendous for O-line Bobby Johnson. So I said, I'm going to go back, way back into time, to check what people were saying when the Giants first hired him away from the Bills. What were Bills fans saying? What was the team saying before that? How was he received? How was he respected around the league? I need something. Give me something that I can take and put a positive spin on. And I went and I checked and I looked some more. And then some more. And finally, it dawned on me. Maybe we got. He's a teacher is the best I could come up with. He's been doing this for 25 years. But just because you've been doing something for 25 years doesn't actually make you good at it. It just means you've been doing it a very long time. Let's go over to the social media maneuvers and kind of take a look at this thing a little bit deeper. I wanted to bring something up, and we'll do this a little bit later because I got to mix in some fun here, right? We got to get a couple laughs out of this because this is a bit of a head scratcher. Not going to lie to you. This doesn't align with all of the moves that have been made thus far. Clearly, he was not their first choice. Remember, we talked about this last week. Lunda Wells, the tight ends coach for the Dallas Cowboys, was their first choice for offensive line coach. Dallas blocked them, and thus they had to go in a different direction. So I wouldn't think that O-line Bobby Johnson would be one of your first choices that you would pivot to after being denied access to Lunda Wells. But, okay, I would have thought there were other options available, but hey, we'll see. Hey, trust the process. Trust the process. Nikki Javala writes, the Commanders are hiring Bobby Johnson as their O-line coach, and Ryan Kerrigan is staying as their assistant linebackers coach / pass rush specialist, confirmed by sources. So, and we'll come back to the rest of that tweet. She then came back and added to that tweet, and we'll talk about that in a second. But someone had asked about Ryan Kerrigan and was he staying on board as one of the coaches. He was the assistant D-lines coach a season ago, and a lot of people were wondering, was he going to stay on in some capacity? And I said, I don't see why not, but obviously Dan Quinn comes in the building and he could decide that Ryan Kerrigan is not a good fit for what he's trying to do. But I'm like, I don't see any harm in keeping Ryan Kerrigan on the staff. He's a made man around these parts and didn't do a poor job as far as we're concerned. I mean, anything that went wrong, they weren't going to put it on Ryan Kerrigan anyway. So I was like, yeah, he's a young coach, getting, earning his stripes in the game. I didn't see why he couldn't be back. And apparently Dan Quinn agreed. So there you go. For those of you who are wondering, Ryan Kerrigan back in the saddle. So good for RK. He'll be back in the mix. But let's focus on this other hire, O-line Bobby Johnson, because this is a pretty big effing deal. What did I tell you guys about the hiring pecking order when it came to coaching staff members? I said head coaches first, obviously. Then depending on what side of the ball that coach is specialized in is going to determine what the second most important hire is going to be. Well, we have a defensive-minded head coach. So naturally, the most important hire then becomes, the second rather, most important hire becomes who's his offensive coordinator. We've already solved that. He hired a defensive coordinator that he brought with him who he's going to allow to call the plays. So that's equally as important as the offensive coordinator hire. But if something should go wrong with Joe Witt Jr., you'd like to think that Dan Quinn himself could step in and get the job done. No matter what, you got your coordinators. The next most important hire, I told you, at least from my perspective, my lens, is the offensive line coach. Because you're coaching a group of five. 5 guys have to be on the field at the same time, working as one to protect your biggest commodity on the field in the quarterback. They're opening up lanes for the running back, and the receivers and tight ends don't touch the football if these guys don't do their jobs adequately. So you're talking about the group that you could argue has the biggest impact non-quarterback on the field. It's an important hire, to say the least. Whether you view it the same way that I do, in level of importance, in the pecking order of how you hire these coaches and where they rank, that's fine. But it's still an important hire. And let me just say this, for those of you watching at home, the nature of the descriptions that I'm about to describe are very graphic in nature. Viewers' discretion is advised. The Giants were the worst offensive line in football last season. You could argue that the Giants weren't that much better the year before. Now, granted, they won a playoff game. They made it to the playoffs. They won a playoff game. It wasn't all bad, but they weren't great as an offensive line the year prior either. But they got it done, right? No one was complaining as badly, but I'm pretty sure Giants fans weren't all that enthused by the job that O-line Bobby Johnson did in 2022. That said, they did make the playoffs. They did win a playoff game, and so credit must be given where credit is due. 2023 brought new challenges, bunch of injuries, lots of offensive line combinations. It was ugly out there, I will admit. However, the Giants surrendered 85 sacks last season. Let me repeat that. The Giants surrendered 85 sacks last season. Ouch. Now, of course, that was an NFL worst and damn near an NFL record. We're aware. However, we watched some of those sacks take place, including, I think we got to DeVito like 8 or 9 times, 6 times in like the first quarter. He was hopeless, yet he still threw for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns against us. How is that even possible that you sack a guy that many times and he still throws for damn near 303 touchdowns on you? That just goes to show you just how bad we were defensively last year. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is they were awful on the offensive line. I'll just say this. The Giants have gone through offensive line coaches like we go through underwear the last 5 years or so. So I'm starting to look around at the Giants and I'm looking and I'm asking myself, is it these coaches or is it the players that you are providing them with? Which is it? Because you can't be going through offensive line coaches like this. Every time we turn around, you're hiring a new offensive line coach, and the line doesn't seem to be getting any better. So what's going on? Because last time I checked, the Giants have been spending resources on the offensive line for the last decade. And yet we keep talking about how bad this offensive line is. So who's at fault? Who's to blame here? Because at one point, Bobby Johnson was well regarded when he was in Buffalo for the job that he did with the Buffalo Bills offensive line, which is the reason that Brian Daboll brought him to New York with him from upstate New York to be his offensive line coach. He snatched him and brought him along because he did a really admirable job in Buffalo. At the end of the day, you don't want to be hiring a guy that was a part of a group that surrendered 85 sacks a season ago. That's not a good look. And there's no really way to spin that to your fan base. The only thing I can say is trust the process. This is one of those trust the process, patience and perseverance type of maneuvers. And in my mind, I've just said, hey, you can't win them all, right? We've been batting like 750 up until this point. And you're going to strike out sometimes, right? You're going to swing and miss sometimes when you swing for the fences. This could be a miss, or we could be pleasantly surprised here. Only one way to find out. Giants fans have already told us, oh, you got a surprise coming, all right. It's just not the kind you're looking for. And I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong. Because it'd be the same way if somebody hired Eric Bieniemy, we'd be telling them, oh, wait till you get a load of this guy, right? That's what we essentially just did, is we went and hired the guy that got the Giants in the position that they're in right now as the worst offensive line in football. And we can't clean this up. There's no way to put a spin on this. You just got to wait and see. Maybe he's actually good at his job, and the Giants' lack of talent on the offensive line masked that. Or maybe he just sucks. And we got an awful O-line coach, and Dan Quinn effed this one up. That could be the case too. Again, only one way to find out. I'm just going to take a wait and see approach. I'm just going to trust the process. But I don't love this one. That's for damn sure. At a bare minimum, I'm confused. I don't hate this move. I definitely don't love it. I'm more confused than anything else. Like, there weren't other options available? I'm looking at Dan Quinn and I'm like, you really trust this dude? You know this guy? You can vouch for him? I feel like I'm some kind of mob boss, or I'm some kind of bad guy in some kind of movie or show. And you bring on this new person and you're not sure if they're trustworthy, but the person that vouched for him, you really trust them. So you ask that person, hey, what do you know about this O-line Bobby Johnson guy anyway? You know this guy? You vouch for this guy? Huh? I'm looking at Dan Quinn. I'm like, hey, how well you know this O-line Bobby Johnson? You trust this guy? Huh? You know this guy? You know his work? If Dan says he's cool, he's cool. But if he turns out to be the ops, Dan, you got some explaining to do. If he turns out to be the ops, Dan has some explaining to do. Nikki Javala then goes on to write, among those not returning, per sources, tight ends coach Todd Storm, run game coordinator Juan Castillo, O-line coach Travell Wharton, senior defensive assistant safeties coach Richard Rogers. So We did have a run game coordinator last year in Juan Castillo, but like I said, I think he doubled as the tight ends coach as well. But and honestly, Juan didn't do a bad job because considering the circumstances, the run game wasn't terrible last year. It really wasn't. But um, clearly, they're going in a different direction in a multitude of positions, which we expected. I didn't think a lot of those guys would be back. A lot of those guys were Rivera guys, and they weren't going to be back. I know you guys saw that running backs coach. Oh man, shucks, Bobby. Yeah, I can't think of his last name. I don't know why, because I like him a lot too. But he went to Tennessee over the weekend. Good for him too. I liked him. I told you guys there were only a select few. Him and Jennifer King were ones that I said were allowed back. Him, Jennifer King, and Tavita Pritchard. And I forgot who it was who said that the team website had Tavita's name pronounced Tavita. John Keim isn't calling him Tavita anymore, so maybe it is Tavita. I'm just going to go with Tavita. At this point, if John Keim was still calling him Tavita, then I would have called him Tavita. But John Keim's even calling him Tavita now. So it is what it is. We're going to go with Tavita. I said I wouldn't mind Tavita Pritchard being back. He's back. And running backs coaches, I was fine with them as well. But they're, obviously not going to be back either. And I think that's a good landing spot for our former running backs coach because I think he did a really good job. And he survived multiple staffs. He had been here for a while, which is why I think I had a little bit of an affinity for him, but I also thought he did a really good job, best of luck to him. But we still got some more coaching staff positions to fill, but this was the biggest domino left to fall, the O-line coach. And I'm not too thrilled with the hire. But again, as I've said all along, and I was going to be this way with everything that they decided to do because I didn't think I would agree with every single move that would be made. And so I'm just going to take a wait and see approach. I'm going to give them an opportunity to either succeed or fail, and then we'll judge accordingly. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay, you can fly off the handle, jump off the deep end, go nuts. The Giants fans are going to roast us for this, and they should, and I don't blame them because, again, if someone would have hired, Eric Bieniemy within the division, I would have taken them to task for doing so. I don't expect anything other than the Giants fans giving us the business, and I'm just going to take my medicine. I'm going to ask Daniel one more time. Do you vouch for O-line Bobby Johnson? The answer is simple. Don't you stutter. If he says yes, he vouches for him, then that's the end of the discussion, and we roll, and we ride. See how this goes. But let's get a little laughter out of this thing, right? So on Friday, I was going to queue up a video for y'all real quick, heading into the weekend that won't see the light of day now. Ended up putting it in my back pocket, but I know y'all saw the clip of old Douglas, old Uncle Doug. Unc was out here in these streets being loose-lipped. Look, I ain't even mad at Unc, right? At this point, he's sort of like that one old uncle, that old family member that just don't give a shit what they say. When old people, get up there in age, they don't care what they say. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? They've earned the right through life experiences and old age. They've earned the right to be able to say whatever it is the hell they want to say. Doug has kind of gotten to that status within the organization, having won a Super Bowl, being the first black one to do so. There's a lot of perks that come with doing that. And so Douglas is just around. I don't even know what he does anymore these days, but you can't fire Doug, right? I mean, you could, obviously, but why? Why? What'd you fire Unc for? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So, obviously, if you've heard the clip, Uncle Doug was talking to Andrew Siciliano and Bucky Brooks about what Washington potentially could do with number 2. And in the clip, Uncle Doug, and if you haven't seen it, go seek it out. It's roughly a minute. It won't cost you a lot of time. And you'll hear in the clip them talking about what Washington's going to do. And Doug starts out being very diplomatic, right? The thing he's supposed to do, okay? If you're going to go, and I'm pretty sure they told their staff, if you're going to be doing your rounds around Radio Row on, Super Bowl week, just make sure you don't say anything stupid, okay? We don't want any stories. We don't want any developments. Let's just keep it status quo, right? And look, Douglas doesn't know anything right now. He's not in those meetings, and they haven't really discussed exactly what they're going to do yet, okay? They're still putting together a staff. Now, trust me when I tell you that there's been a conversation surrounding the quarterback position, and that happened in the interview process. But they haven't actually sat down and discussed what it is they're going to do with the quarterback position. But everybody knows that they're going to take a quarterback. So Douglas essentially goes on and he's like, yeah, there's a lot of different things that we could do at number 2. We could take a quarterback, we could take offensive line, we could take receiver, we could take an edge rusher. There's a multitude of options available to us. And Andrew Siciliano goes, come on, Douglas, come on. Buddy, we all know that if you guys go anything other than quarterback, there's going to be a lot of people upset in the nation's capital. And Bucky Brooks kind of pressed him a little bit and egged him on. And so Douglas starts to laugh and he goes, look, I was trying to be diplomatic. But y'all know it's probably a 90% chance that we taking a quarterback. And everybody's like, Doug, what are you doing, man? Shh. Don't tell nobody what we finna do. It's not a secret though, but it was just funny. But you know what I really got a kick out of, and the reason I really was gonna do a video was because of this response from Eli, right? Elijah Lord Cage. This response had me dying. And it wasn't even funny. It was mean-spirited in nature, but I couldn't help but laugh. So his response to Douglas's answer to Andrew Siciliano and Bucky Brooks, he said, Lord, and if you watch Doug in this interview, and you can see his eye there, he's got the Kobe Bryant eye, right? It's not getting any better with age, and so he goes, Lord have mercy. They're going to have to beat that other eye. Lord forgive me, it's not funny. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I'm laughing at this so hard. And I've read it a million times and I'm still weak. He said, Lord have mercy. They're going to have to beat that other eye lazy when he get back to Ashburn. That is so not funny. I'm so sorry. Lord, I'm sorry. I really, truly do apologize for laughing at this. This is not right. And then there was a meme that somebody responded to that tweet with, DC Young Fly, when he starts to laugh and then he realizes, like, no, you didn't just say that. Oh, man, that was some good stuff on Friday. I needed that laugh on Friday evening. That was so good. And I needed that laugh again today. I'm glad it was there. I'm glad I added it to the show because I'm not too sure about O-line Bobby Johnson. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Look, you can't win them all. And we were hitting a pretty good average here recently with the hires, and we were all excited. We had to be knocked down or wrong and mellowed out a little bit. We were getting, I said Dan Quinn is building a bully of a staff. And they was like, oh yeah? Football guys was like, oh yeah? Take you some O-line Bobby Johnson. What you think now? And I went, ew. And I shrunk down a little bit and I was like, all right, maybe not a bully, but maybe it's a respectable staff. He was like, that's better. Keep your damn voice down. Okay. And a lot less bass. Okay, I heard you. That's what the O-line Bobby Johnson move does. It makes you calm down a little bit, stop talking reckless, and take some of that damn bass out your voice. Y'all are building an okay staff, not a bully. And just for good measure, take you some O-line Bobby Johnson and sit down and shut up. Duly noted. Done. So, there you have it. Washington adds an O-line coach. Ryan Kerrigan's staying put. That's good news. Uncle Doug's out here just saying whatever. That's funny. You guys are saying whatever. I saw a couple of funny things on Twitter regarding O-line Bobby Johnson. It was like, so they couldn't get Ben Johnson, so they doubled down in the division on Brian Johnson and Bobby Johnson. I said, okay, that's a good one. I saw another one where somebody was like, damn, I knew we were getting somebody from the Giants. I just didn't know who. We already had gotten somebody off the Eagles staff. We had already gotten, obviously, people off of the Cowboys staff. The Giants were the only ones left. I just didn't think it was going to be O-line Bobby Johnson. Yeah, me either. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Giants fans, behave yourself. Have fun, though. Have at it. I can't stop you, and I won't try to. Commanders fans, I'm talking to you. What do you think? Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses in any event. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys, enjoy yourselves. And with any other news breaking, we'll be here to break it down. If not, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.